Hi everyone! Today we're going to be looking at a nutritional case study, specifically examining the health of a 14-year-old female named Jane. Just to start off, Jane has been referred for nutrition counseling by her primary care to review for some weight management counseling, as well as getting her family involved in hopefully managing her weight and setting her up for success in the future. So let's get started. So again, we have the patient. Her name is Jane. She's a 14-year-old female referred to us for nutritional counseling by her primary care provider for weight management. Something just to note in the beginning is it seems like her family is pretty open and interested in being a part of her care, getting her well, and basically educating themselves as a family unit to try and better the life of themselves as well as Jane. So taking a look at kind of the backstory. The demographics of what we're looking at with Jane are that she lives at home with her parents. She has an 8-year-old sister and a 4-year-old younger brother. Her current weight is 152.9 pounds, height of 62 inches. And when we're examining her family history, something to take note of, family history can play a big piece in potential risk factors for obesity in the adolescent female. So when we look at the family history, we do have a history of obesity on both the mother and father side. We're looking at risk factors of also hyperlipidemia and diabetes. Something also to take note of, the parents state that they often run low on funding by the end of the month, and they end up having to supplement their food budget with fast food. So, diving into the assessment based on these demographics and what we've learned so far from her referral by her primary care. So looking at her height and weight, we're able to determine that her BMI is 28. For her age, her weight, and her height, Jane is classified as obese based on this BMI. She falls above the 95th percentile for girls of her age in the 96th percentile, which therefore classifies her as obese. Based on her exam provided by her primary care, she's otherwise healthy appearing. And so based on this assessment of the BMI, we can take a look at the CDC provided growth charts. The analysis of the growth charts that we were able to develop, Jane falls between the 90th and 95th percentiles for weight for age. Jane also falls, as stated previously, above the 95th percentile in body mass index for age. As noted, she is in the 96th percentile. So all things to take into account when we're examining our recommendations and meal plan development for Jane. These are things just to bring to light to her family, just to really show the key facts of what the lifestyle can do to their young 14-year-old daughter. So, moving forward, Jane was able to provide us with a 3-day food diary, which is very important when examining what Jane actually eats, the amounts she actually eats, and how we can work with her to develop a new meal plan. So we use the information from her food diaries to interpret her 3-day average, specifically looking at her caloric intake, her macronutrient intake, and her micronutrient intakes. This is going to help us developing, like I said, the sample meal plans that we can at least provide as education tools to Jane and her family to work with her to make a better decision each time she has a meal. So we took the values from this 3-day food average and then compared to the DRI, or the daily recommended intake values, provided based on Jane's age, weight, and her height. So here we have one of the first sections of Jane's 3-day average intakes versus those DRI values. So as you can see, there's quite a few values that are in excess of the typical DRI. Some things to take note of are her calories, her carbohydrate intake, her fat intake, and a few of the deficiencies in the vitamins that we're seeing here. This next slide is just her average intake values versus her DRI values continued. Here we do see a lot of excess. Again, make note, Not necessarily all excessive items are negative. Some of the micronutrient in excess isn't necessarily a bad thing. It is just something to take note of that seemingly her diet is fairly off balance. She does appear, as of note, to be deficient in calcium, which is important in her bone and teeth growth. She appears to be deficient in potassium, and we also show deficiencies in magnesium. So, taking those values and really assessing what we're looking at. Overall, Jane has an excess of calories, sodium content, and fat. These are really the first three things to take note of when trying to develop a new and improved meal plan for Jane. On average, she's taking in over 1,000 excess calories daily when compared to her DRI for her BMI, her age, her weight, and her height. That's 1,000 extra calories through a 3-day average. This is important to take note because this will be the first thing that we're examining when we are speaking and educating with Jane. We need to reduce these calories. Secondly, on average, she's consuming approximately 40 grams above the highest end of her carbohydrate DRI. For fat and sodium, on average, she's consuming approximately 50 grams of excess fat beyond the DRI and in excess of 3.5 grams of sodium when compared to her DRI. These extra calories Jane consumes come from high in sugar, fat, and sodium with little supply of vitamins or minerals. And this is really, again, the basis of Jane's problem with obesity. The issue is, again, all stemming back to potential lack of education on what the best way to stretch these parents' dollar really is, as well as just simply running out of money by the end of the month and having to supplement with fast food. So now we're really going to get into the recommendations on how we can create a more healthy lifestyle for Jane. Number one, we need to reduce the calorie intake. As previously stated, she's about 1,000 calories over her DRI, and we need to reduce by approximately 1,000 calories per day. This is going to involve significant discussion and counseling, not only with Jane, but with her family. Primarily her parents. Obviously, both of her siblings are underage, and they're going to be taking the lead from Jane and her parents as well. So it's important to really start that now and create cause for a healthier lifestyle for the entire family. We're going to want to discuss food preferences, what we can do for substitutions based on what we've seen in her 3-day food log, and any food issues that are associated with change. Are there things that they're worried about trying? Are there things they think that they maybe can't afford? And having those discussions on how to make that an easier transition. Something that should be noted in Jane's 3-day food diary from her current eating pattern, she's eating extremely large portions. She's having a dessert with almost every meal. She's having a soda with almost every meal. And again, goes back to the fast food. There's KFC chicken noted. There's pizza for takeout noted. It's just really examining those things, creating more of a mindset to have those items be more of a quote-unquote cheat meal and very limited amount of times. We're going to work very hard with Jane, once having these discussions on food preferences, to increase her consumption of fruits and vegetables, as well as whole grains, including low-fat dairy in her diet, as well as good-sized portions to meet her DRI of protein of lean meats. Again, back to education. With individual counseling to identify any peer pressure issues being felt or barriers Jane's feeling to improving her lifestyle. Something to take note of, Jane is 14. She's in high school, and there are absolutely pressures being felt for her as well as any girl that's in high school. She needs to know that she can be honest and explain if she feels like she's having issues with her weight, with being made fun of, and how you can really overcome those barriers to maintain a healthy lifestyle and healthy socialization. We're really going to need to go over how to make healthy meal choices at school. Overall, the choices for food at school are going to be on the healthy end just because of their federally mandated standards. But we really need to go over with Jane portion sizes and how to make those correct choices when choosing meals at school. We're going to work hard to increase her physical activity, starting slow, starting with 30 minutes per day, and then working to increase to 60 minutes per day. Again, this will require family involvement in the food choices and her exercise. Examining the issues that her family is having with running out of money for food towards the end of the month and turning to fast food. It's really important, again, to educate her parents on the nutritional needs of Jane and her siblings and working on how to stretch their dollar, such as using the Thrifty Food Plan. We'll work to educate the family, specifically the parents, on supplemental nutrition programs to assist Jane and their whole family. Examples of these are SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This is going to help to provide additional nutrition education, food purchasing assistance, as long as they meet the qualifications. So definitely trying to get them started in the right direction to examining that and reaching out for additional assistance. Something else to note is potential for getting Jane and her siblings enrolled in the national school and lunch and breakfast programs. Working to reduce the cost of them eating at school is going to allow her parents to provide much more nutritious meals, both at home at night and on the weekends. It'll really just free up their budget. Something else to note, really to work on the importance of family mealtime at home, and again, reducing that fast food intake. So this is just a sample 3-day meal plan that we've developed to meet Jane's nutritional needs. This is just the first day, showing a breakfast, a snack, a lunch, a second snack, and then a dinner. Really focusing on getting those fresh fruits and vegetables, those whole grains, those lean meats, and really balancing out her portion sizes. This is just a second day. Sample meal to meet Jane's needs. Again, the same setup with breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. And just really focusing on meals at home, fresh food, and really just getting her to open up and try new things. And here we just have that third day of the sample meal plan as well. And there we have it. This is really just the start to getting Jane and her family on the road to health. And hopefully, if they're receptive, the continued partnership with working on including that physical exercise, adding the fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low-fat dairy, and lean meats to Jane's diet, and creating that partnership between Jane and her family on really changing their lifestyle and creating habits that will last long into the future. Thank you.